Hey everybody, it's Gianna Bresenton here, continuing with my mission to share my story in raw, vulnerable, and sometimes embarrassingly real ways so that you will know that your story matters and that you are not alone. I got a really great question from a really good friend of mine actually this weekend. Hey Megan, and she was asking me how it is that you can fall in love again, which I never really even thought to answer that question because it seems so, I don't know. But I want to tell you how it works just in case you're thinking, oh my God, I've had my heart stomped on the ground. There's no way I can do this. Or I've lost the love of my life. It's never ever going to happen for me again. And really, the secret is this. I think I shared with you in an earlier mission how when Tim died, God sent me a word. And that word was that my life was going to be a masterpiece, even if Tim wasn't in it anymore. And even though that broke my heart at the time, and I didn't understand how that could work, and I think I even felt mad at times because I just couldn't see that having him be taken away was part of the process of making me a masterpiece. But I did accept that that was true. And so one thing that I had convinced myself of is that no one could ever fill his shoes. And so no one needed to try, but someone, it would definitely, the next person that I was in love with was going to have to be okay with the fact that those shoes were always going to be with me. I wasn't going to be able to get rid of them or pretend like he didn't exist or that he didn't matter. Not only because I have 3 kids who remind me every day of this beautiful love that we had and a spiritual connection that goes beyond physical experience, but because I learned a lot from that relationship and I wasn't going to pretend like it never happened. So I think the way that it happened for me is when I met the next man that I really gave my heart to, I can honestly say there wasn't any ever any comparison in my mind with the relationship that Tim and I had. It was something completely different. And in fact, I honestly think that I am able now to experience love even more fully than I was able to before, because I know what it means to lose a love. And so I'm so appreciative of what it means to have someone love you. So it can be little things like, do you know how amazing it feels to have someone else cook dinner or wash the dishes? Oh my God. That's almost like as good as like sexy music or whatever. Like not having to do the dishes. It really, wow. But before, when I was married, I might have been annoyed that, someone didn't wash the dishes or didn't pick up their socks or left a mess. Like I can literally remember getting in arguments with Tim over whether or not we could be on time to an appointment because I needed to make sure that the kitchen was clean and the dishes were washed before I left the house, because if it wasn't perfect, then I would feel messy. So now, like, all of those kind of crazy things are gone because I know that they're not important. And so I think anybody that I have a relationship with now really gets the benefit of that. And also, I feel like because I was able to experience such a beautiful, loving relationship and all these lessons that I'm sharing with you that I learned from living with Tim and loving Tim, I feel a responsibility to pay it forward to the men that I fall in love with now. So, obviously I'm not in a relationship and I've had, one engagement called off and got married and had that marriage fall apart as well. But I know that it isn't because I didn't give my whole heart to that relationship or because I was holding back. In fact, it was the opposite. I felt like I needed to be the one in that relationship to say, I believe in you. I believe that love can win. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest. And I know that, that isn't something that everybody gets. And because my partners at the time didn't choose to accept that grace, they had other things that they wanted to work on and needed to behave in ways that I couldn't live with myself personally. It didn't mean that I left anything unsaid. So, yeah, I guess if someone was to ask me, how do you keep loving? I would just say, you just do. Because I can't imagine living a life where I wasn't free to tell people how I feel. Actually, oh, this is hilarious. So I went on this date one time, and it was like a blind date. We didn't really know each other, but when we met at the restaurant, we were having a talk, and he asked me, so what are your, I forget even what he called it, but like the breakables, like if this happens, like this relationship is over, right? Like this is just like the bottom of the barrel. Absolutely not. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, illegal drug use, you've been in prison. Like, I'm trying to think of like, okay, what would be the really huge things? Because for the most part, I feel like if you really love someone, you can work through it, right? So anyways, I turned the question back around and I said, so, what are your deal breakers? That's what he called it. And he was like, well, it really makes me crazy when people use the L word too soon. And I was like, oh my God, the L word? And in my mind, I'm trying to think like, okay, what's the L word? What's the L word? What's the L word? And I'm thinking like, okay, I have a relationship with another woman. I mean, I was really trying to figure out what is the L word. And so I asked him, I'm like, what do you mean? And he was like, the L word. I was like, no, what are you talking about? And he said, love. And I said, you mean you don't like it when people tell you they love you? And he said, no, it's when they say it too soon. I was like, oh, you want to be the first one to say that you love them? He was like, no, I mean, I might like drop a hint now and then, but I really don't want to just, I want to know how they're going to respond before I actually say it. And so, I mean, I was literally laughing in my boots, but I really held it together till I left. And then I realized that I could thank this person for giving me another deal breaker. And that is, I could never be with someone who wasn't just free to say how they felt. So if that means I don't want to pretend like I don't love you if I do. And I don't want to have to pretend like I love you if I don't. I don't want to pretend like there's not a problem when there is. And I don't want to make up a problem when there isn't, just to try to get attention. And I would definitely say that I learned all of those things because I lost the love of my life, and it's allowed me to see what's really important. And what's really important is to tell the people that you care about how you feel about them while you still have the time. And I feel like because I've lost love in the past, I'm not going to let it go by if it's in my life. So I'm going to give it 110%. And so this is just a really long way of answering the question, how can you keep on loving people, or how could you fall in love again? And I would just say, you just do. And it's completely different with every person that you're with. There's no comparison. I feel like I can just truly appreciate the unique parts of each man that comes into my life. And I just think living my life without love would be way much more unbearable than living my life with love, knowing that I'm going to get hurt sometimes. And maybe that's part of it too, is just the willingness to be hurt and to realize that's just part of loving people. We're all imperfect and we all let each other down at times. But then we do pretty amazing superhero things too. Sometimes we just have to wait around to see it. And maybe in another video, I'll get to kind of like my litmus test for when it's time to end a relationship. because there are times you just can't let it go on indefinitely when you're not having the love in your life that you need. So it's probably enough for one day. And I'm starting to read through some of these questions now. So Judy's saying non-negotiables. Oh, that was when I was trying to look for the word. And oh, Johnny, it's so good to see you on here. This is a friend that we haven't seen in 20 years. Hey. But there is a connection with old friends that other people don't have. And so I want you to know that I really appreciate it. Daniel, hey, love you, brother. Can't wait to see you at Christmas. And I guess we'll see you next time. Bye.